There we go. I can't believe I didn't see it before now. It's all so much clearer. I think I know how the show's gonna end. So first of all, whoa. This was an awesome fucking episode. It went by so fucking quick, which is hilarious considering how much they focused on Vision's super speed. It feels like it was like 5 minutes long, but like an hour's worth of stuff happened. Like, holy shit. We have so much to go over. Like, it's insane. But before we get to that, I just want to say that I am going to be spoiling this episode. So before you watch this, I suggest that you go and watch the actual episode first. And if you haven't yet, go check out my video on the first 2 episodes and then come back here and then watch this video. So before we get into the episode, I do want to actually go over how I think the show is going to pan out overall and the evidence that I have to support it. Because last night, before the episode came out, me and my girlfriend decided to go ahead and watch the first 2 episodes, kind of give ourselves a little bit of a refresher and get, like, you know, have the whole picture going in. And we noticed quite a few things, and I went ahead and did some research because, you know, some shit popped up in my head, and I was like, got real curious. And I came up with the craziest theory, and there is so much evidence to back it up. It's gonna be pretty insane, and for the next half hour you're probably gonna see me babble on like a madman going on about conspiracies, but bear with me, I promise. I think it's really gonna be worth it. So one of the first things that we noticed in the rewatch is that there's a lot of clock imagery, a lot of ticking and a lot of actual like clocks in the episodes, and that only is important because I think that time runs differently in this little, you know, pocket suburb. And that comes into play at the end of the second episode when Wanda gets up. She actually says, and I didn't notice this the first 2 times that I watched it, and even the third time I didn't really happen to notice it. My girlfriend did. She says, "I think the children need some popcorn," before either of them notice that she has a baby bump. So, like, it's like they know. And speaking of the kids, they're kids. Okay, so I did some research, and I looked up Tommy and Billy Maximoff, which is Wanda and Vision's kids in the comics. What I found was insane. So I had already started to kind of put together a theory that maybe Wanda is willingly under this spell, because you gotta think, after Endgame, pretty much everybody who lost anyone in the snap got, you know, their loved ones back, other than Loki, Heimdall, and Vision. So you can imagine that Scarlet Witch, after having to lose him twice, well, technically 3 times, because she had to watch him disintegrate into ash, didn't even get to give him a proper burial or anything, she'd be pretty pissed. So here's my theory. I think Wanda went to Mephisto and made a deal with her to turn this suburb and her into this sitcom reality where she could live a perfect life with Vision and have the children that she always wanted, and the you know, life, the you know, just settling down, living in a house, not having to worry about all the superhero bullshit. But in exchange for that, Mephisto wants her children. And that's why everyone is so obsessed about the for the children. That's why it's such a big fucking deal that the children need to be birthed and need to be grown there, and everything needs to happen so perfectly, and Sword needs to get the fuck out, and they just need to not, you know, be a part of it. That's why Wanda keeps saying, no, get out. You know, she's pushing everything out that's trying to save and help her. And that shows to be proven at the end of the 3rd episode. Now you're probably wondering, what research did I find on their kids? And as it turns out, what I found actually supports everything that I just came up with. So in the comics, the same thing happened. They were supposedly born to Vision and Scarlet Witch, but actually they were constructs made by Scarlet Witch's hex powers, which actually is kind of interesting because Eric Voss over at New Rockstars mentioned that he had a theory about the hex symbolism being used at the end of both the first and second episode might be important. And I thought, he was just grasping at straws and it was kind of crazy. But it actually kind of makes sense now, knowing that. And on top of that, knowing that the intro on the third episode also uses the same hex symbolism when it comes to the Brady Bunch intro that it gave us. But that's not the only insane thing that I found about them. As it turns out, the way that she made them is by using slivers of Mephisto's life essence. And then he later reabsorbed them and they ceased to exist. So what I think is that he agreed to put her under the spell, but only if she could have these children with his life essence, and then he could reabsorb them later, draining her of her chaos magic. So in conclusion, I think that by the end of the show, we're going to get Wanda having to go through losing vision again, and her children, and this perfect sitcom reality that she's come to love. And, I think that she's trying to prevent that as much as possible and, prolong this, illusion as much as she can. That way she can... I just realized her and Vision's names in the second episode, it's Glamour and Illusion. This is a glamorous illusion. Oh my god, I actually just realized that just now on camera. It's not in my notes or anything. Ha! So let me know in the comments what you think of my theory, and if you think that it's going to turn out that way, or how you think it's going to turn out, what you think is going on in the world of WandaVision. But now it's time to get into the third episode. And real quick, I wanted to mention that with this third episode dropping, the advert card at the top of the Disney Plus interface changed. And I don't just mean with like the, stylized, picture in the TV with them being, in this era. It also has a little tear in the perfect reality, symbolizing what happens later in the episode, kind of foreshadowing it. So I just thought that was kind of cool. Now right off the bat, we get a little bit of kind of strange previously on, and it would be normal. Everything seems, pretty usual, except for the fact that Wanda is narrating it. And it almost seems as though she, kind of is watching it herself. Like she's watching it unfold at the same time that we are. With this episode, we get an awesome intro. I mean, par for the course. It's themed for the era, just like the first and second episode. This one is kind of a Brady Bunch themed episode. Now, when I do a review, I try to watch it 2, maybe 3 times. That way I can kind of get a good grip on it, and one time to turn my brain off and actually just watch it and enjoy it, another time to actually take notes and kind of tear it apart. This episode I happened to watch 3 times, and on my third watch through, I realized that the intro actually says something a little weird. It says, like, the whole beginning of it is, we got something cooking, and I think that, it's supposed to be played off as just a, nod to the song, and it does make sense within the context of the song, but I think that it's kind of hinting at, we got something cooking, we got something crazy in store for you with this episode and with the ones coming up. Now, throughout the intro, we get them kind of doing, baby prep, and it shows, little, like, kind of sitcom versions of them, walking out with a crib and, kind of setting up a swing set and cooking burgers, stuff like that. It's, just family stuff. And in this intro, instead of the Brady Bunch squares, we get the hexagons. And, like I said, I totally think it's a nod at her hex magic now. Okay, so once the episode starts, we get a doctor kind of, giving them an examination on her stomach and all that good stuff. And one thing I noticed is that the doctor is kind of misogynistic at times, and Wanda seems like kind of almost like, like confused and almost displeased by it. And I feel like that's kind of a part of, with her, not enjoying this era. It's like, there's certain things in this era that she doesn't like, and then certain things in this era that she doesn't like or doesn't make sense, and she's kind of realizing, like, I think that's a little weird. Kind of like, with the whole beds not being together in the second episode, she put it together like, what? That doesn't make sense, you know? I think it's kind of carrying over, like, in each era, she's kind of trying to perfect it a little more and more and realizing little things that are wrong with those times. Now, after that, we get a scene where it already starts to get kind of weird because Vision goes outside and he sees Herb, his neighbor. And he's trimming some hedges, but then he starts to, like, kind of cut through the brick barrier between the driveways. And it's just like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing, man? And Vision just tries to be polite. And he's like, hey, man, hey, I think you went a little too far and went down into the brick. And Herb just kind of like, yeah, I guess I did. Thanks, bud. But just keeps going. Like, this much, at least. It's very chilling. And he's just staring at Vision, like, the whole time. And one weird thing that I noticed that kind of, you know, hints at this, you know, that the fact that we're in a small area that, you know, they're trapped in is you can't see past Herb. I mean, you can, but it's like, it looks like a background, clearly. Like, it's not, you can't see past, it's almost like it's a low render distance. And with that, I want to mention all the acting in the show is just insane. Like, the range on all of these actors to play these different versions of themselves through each era and still be funny and still hold the character and, you know, still also kind of be like that version of themselves trying to creep out and escape from this spell, but also be trapped under it. It's just mind-blowing. Like, wow, did they do a good job. But anyway, I also wanted to mention with Herb cutting through the brick, I think that is kind of a symbolism of him trying to escape and break free. And that kind of ends up being a theme throughout the episode. And you'll see that towards the end. So Wanda starts getting, like, way big, way fast at an alarming rate. And they cut to another scene where all of a sudden she's already feeling kicking. And where they thought they were just at 4 months, now all of a sudden they're at 6 months in less than, you know, a few hours. And then we get Vision's best impression of Owen Wilson, and then they kind of debate for a minute about what they want the name to be, whether they want it to be Billy or Tommy, and they say the only solution to it is, let's hope for a girl, which is kind of ironic considering they get 2 boys. But it's kind of weird because it's almost as if they know that not only will it be boys, but it'll be 2 boys. Because it's just little things like they keep referring to the baby as he, and they, you know, never really call it a she. They never say it, or, you know, they seem so sure that it's going to be a boy. And they don't ever, you know, think of a girl's name or anything like that. They already know. And it's weird. So next we get to a scene where Vision is changing diapers and he's using his super speed, going super fast. It's pretty funny, but this leads into a scene where she's having Braxton Hicks contractions, and it shows that the pregnancy is throwing shit off the wall. Like, shit's going fucking crazy, dude. Shit's spinning and fucking the sink just starts fucking overflowing and filling it. It's insane. Like, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a whole fucking blackout, and it just blows everybody's power. And when this happens, we actually get to see Dottie and her husband, I forget his name, but there's like a whole gag where he's holding the newspaper. She comes up to ask, oh, these earrings make me look fat, and then the power goes out. Oh, thank God. And it seems like just a throwaway gag, but I looked at the newspaper, and on one side, it's just a color TV ad, and, you know, it's kind of funny considering, you know, this is the episode where they introduce color, and the episode is actually called Now in Color, I believe. But on the other side, it says that there are 2 fire hydrants being installed on Main Street, and that wouldn't seem weird, but the average block in New York is about 900 feet long. Fire hydrants usually aren't placed but about 800 feet apart. And so the strange thing to me is that they're both getting placed on the same street, and I think that it might be Sword kind of, you know, trying to infiltrate, just kind of like the beekeeper in the sewers with construction workers and stuff like that. You know, city workers trying to kind of stealthily work their way in as just normal people coming there to work. Now, after that, we get a really bizarre scene that I absolutely love how it was done, but because the whole block's power went out, Wanda is worried that, people are going to find out when the baby's born, because, who the fuck knows what's going to happen when it comes. The craziest thing is that I didn't even think about it during the first 2 episodes, but they normally don't hide their identity, in the Avengers movies or anything like that. So that's probably why it's such a foreign concept to be hiding their identity, and why Vision almost forgets to change his face when he goes out the door in the first episode. People are probably so close to figuring them out because usually they can just be open about it, so that's what they're used to. But when they start talking about this, it gets real crazy, because Vision, he kind of starts piecing stuff together, putting 2 and 2 together. He starts to kind of figure that shit out, and he's like, something's going on. He starts saying, with, Herb, and with this and that and the other, and all of a sudden, it just, cuts to before he sat down to talk to her about it. And it's it's done in such a way where it seems like a glitch in the streaming service. And that's why I really love how it was done. But it's so weird, because then when it cuts back and he sits down this time, he's like, I'm anxious too. And, he just dismisses all of the other strange bullshit. And it's like he wasn't anywhere near figuring it out at all. And it's just like it was all wiped. But then we get a scene where Wanda's water breaks, and it actually starts to cause rain everywhere, and a storm. Well, I don't know about everywhere, but in their house. And so they have to hide under the table and all that good stuff. But whenever it starts to rain, it cuts to an ad break.
And this is where I put
mid-roll.
If I had one.
And yet again, we get another ad that is evidence of her traumatic past, where it's a Hydra soak thing, it's like a bubble bath thing for Hydra. When that's over, we see that Vision decides he needs to go get the doctor as fast as he can, if the doctor's still in town, because he was actually supposed to go on a trip to Bermuda. Luckily, we see later that his car was broke down and he actually couldn't leave on time. But while he's gone, Geraldine shows up, and it was pretty clear that Geraldine wasn't actually Geraldine. There was, something off about her, and I saw that there were actually theories out there that she was probably the little girl from Captain Marvel, but grown up and now working with Sword, and that she's there trying to get her out. But I thought about it, and I was like, maybe she went undercover, and she kind of was like, okay, I'm going to go in there, and I know I'm going to be under the spell. And that's why there were times that she kind of was real confused about everything. And that definitely comes up later. But when she shows up, we actually notice that she has a sword necklace on, and that comes into play later. But yeah, no, during this whole scene, she's acting real sus at certain points. She kind of seems she doesn't know what's going on, but at times she kind of does. It's weird. So we get this scene where the Sork that they painted on the wall comes to life and is fucking with Wanda and kind of, picking at Geraldine's clothes, kind of inspecting her and everything like that. And Wanda's trying to make it disappear, but it's just brushing off the magic. And at first, you think, okay, it's probably Wanda's magic made it come to life, and that's why it's able to brush off the magic, because it's immune. But my girlfriend brought up a good point, that on my third watch through, I actually kind of saw some stuff that really supported it. The Stork might actually be Mephisto. And the reason that I think that might actually be true is because you see that the Stork kind of in the painting is watching over and holding the children. And it's, I think it's kind of symbolic of Mephisto is watching her and watching the children and, waiting. And, he kind of a message being sent to her. And I think that might be why he was trying to inspect Geraldine and kind of fuck with her, is trying to get her the fuck out of the house, so that way she can't warn Wanda or, break the spell or anything like that. So then we get the birth scene, and it's pretty funny because everything's going fucking insane, and Geraldine's trying her best to help Wanda with the birth, and Vision is rushing back with the doctor. He unfortunately misses the birth of Tommy, but then when he's about to give Wanda a kiss and he's holding Tommy and, it's a real touching moment, all of a sudden Wanda just fucking screams and it's fucking hilarious. They realize, oh shit, there's a second one coming, and that's when Billy is born. But it isn't until after this scene that shit gets really fucking weird. So Vision walks the doctor out, he says his goodbyes, tells him, hey, I hope you have a good trip. But the doctor says, oh, I don't think I'll be going because, and I quote, small towns, they're just so hard to escape. Then there's a laugh track after it, which is really fucking weird. And then it doesn't get any better. It just gets more and more strange after that. So Vision starts to kind of think about it, and he's kind of mulling it over. And then he turns around to go back in the house, and he sees Agnes and Herb. And it looks like they're, kind of, huddled up talking. But he says, howdy, neighbors. And then they go, oh, hi. And they real quick huddle even closer and start whispering. And it's real weird. And Vision kind of goes over to ask about it. And then she makes another Ralph reference, yet he's not there in this episode. Still weird. He kind of goes to brush it off and go back inside. And then all of a sudden she goes, hey, is Geraldine in there? And then it gets real chilling because it cuts to Geraldine and Wanda in the house, and Wanda brings up that, oh, she is a twin, actually, and she brings up Pietro, Quicksilver, and if you don't know, he died in Age of Ultron, which is where Scarlet Witch and Vision were both introduced, actually, and she starts singing in Sokovian to the twins, and then Geraldine kind of starts to snap out of it, and then out of fucking nowhere, she just looks at Wanda and goes, he was killed by Ultron, wasn't he? Wanda just responds with, what did you say? And she's got a tear coming down her eye, and it's so fucking hard to watch. It's so sad. But then it cuts to Herb and Agnes and Vision, and Agnes says that she's new in town and that she has no family or no husband, and Vision responds, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with that. But then she says she has no home. Then we see Wanda, she's fucking pissed, freaking the fuck out. Geraldine's trying to cover for herself, like, oh, I don't know what you're talking, I didn't say anything like that. Who, Pietro? And then cuts back to Herb. He can't finish what he's saying to Vision. It sounds like he's trying to say she came here because we're all trapped or because we're all under a spell. And but all he can say is she came here because we're all. She came here because we're all. And then Agnes looks at him and is like, stop it. Then Wanda notices a sword logo on Geraldine's necklace, and she starts to question her, like, who are you? Why are you here? What are your intentions with my daughter? But no, seriously though, she starts to approach Geraldine like very threateningly, and it's like, it looks like she's about to just fucking like explode her with her magic or something. Like, you're sitting there on the edge of your seat like, what the fuck is about to happen? And then all of a sudden, Agnes and Herb just fucking get the fuck out of there. She says something about, oh, I gotta go, finish my macrame, and Herb's like, oh, well, I'll talk to you later, buddy, and they just fucking leave. They completely ignore everything that just happened in their conversation. And then Vision comes back into the house, and he notices that Geraldine is missing completely, and he's like, where's Geraldine? And Wanda is just standing over the crib, just watching over the twins, and it is so fucking creepy because she just kind of says, oh, well, she had to rush home, and acts like nothing is fucking wrong, and it's just, oh, it's so fucking eerie. But then, as she's doing that, looking down at the children, the aspect ratio widens, and it goes to normal, and it shows the normal, real world just outside of Westview, and we see the Westview sign, we see the town. It looks like a normal town. Like, it looks like just a regular suburb that is pretty modern, honestly, with the designs of the houses. It doesn't look like old school house designs or architecture. And all of a sudden we see that there's like this weird kind of force field thing that looks like it's made out of TV pixels, and it starts to just kind of show up and glitch, and all of a sudden Geraldine just spat out of it. And then it closes up and it doesn't look like it's there anymore. She lands on the ground and it looks like it really fucking hurts, and then all of a sudden she gets fucking surrounded by sword completely, fucking SUVs, helicopters, everything. Then it kind of pans out and we notice that there's a compound right outside of the town, and it looks like they've been watching it, or that they're like monitoring it. And there are these lights that almost look like ones that would be, outside of a football field or something like that. And I didn't think anything of it on the first and second watch, but on the third watch, I started to think, what if those are maybe some sort of like projectors that are, putting out some sort of barrier, and that's what that force field is to make sure that that illusion doesn't break past and, infect the rest of the world. Like maybe, Mephisto meant to start in Westview and spread out, for Wanda so she could have a whole world in this reality, but, Sword stopped it, and now they're trying to stop the whole thing. It's a major reach, and I don't really think it's going to turn out to be anything, but, it's just kind of something I thought of. One last thing I want to go over is the fact that the episode ends with the song Daydream Believer by the Monkees, which is actually a song about an elderly couple who feels like they, didn't get to live all these things that they wanted to do, and didn't get to live these high expectations of what they wanted out of life, but they were pretty happy with the life that they got anyway. And I feel like that is pretty representative of a certain superhero couple that we know. But anyway, guys, that's my video. Let me know if there's anything that I missed down in the comments, or, if there's any theories that you guys have. I'd really like to know, what you guys think of the show. Are you guys enjoying it? What are y'all's thoughts on it? If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like on it. It'll definitely help out the channel. And go ahead and share this with somebody else who you think would like it, or who's, into the show or into Marvel movies. If you like my content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified of all of my upcoming content. I really appreciate you guys watching the video. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and y'all have a spectacular day.